Welcome to Mind Files Minutes. In this segment, we're looking at advice and opinions. How do you define an expert? From the time that we were little, when we were 6 years old and we entered school, we've been taught to believe that the person standing in front of the class was an expert, an authority figure. But were they? Teachers and professors certainly know more than we do about the subject that they're teaching us while we're in school. But do they really know more than you're capable of learning as an adult? Let me say that again. Do they really know more than you are capable of learning as an adult? You see, school teaches us opinions as if they're solid facts. But the reality is, every textbook that we studied was one person's opinion. Just think about that for a moment. Consider the number of books in a library or a bookstore. How many books are there on one subject? Do you think that all the authors agree with one another? Or is it possible that they all have differing opinions? Line up 10 people who've studied one particular subject. You'll get at least 8 different opinions about that very same subject. And there's lots of reasons for that. Now, this concept is the key to the door that leads to the hallway of healing. Everybody has their own mind files that their mind's process is referencing all the time. And every mind file has emotional filters attached to those stories, which are the memories. The narratives that are formed at the time of every experience at the level of understanding that we all had at the time of that experience. Which means that, just like you, everyone has unresolved mind files sitting in their fear cabinet that negatively impact their choices, their beliefs, and their opinions, just like you. Take a moment to think about something that you learned in your childhood that you know, now as an adult, wasn't true. There's the obvious ones. But I'm meaning, think about the ones that aren't so obvious. Let me give you an example about a belief, a fact that stayed in the minds of important people, of influential people, for a long time. But then, when new information became available, what they thought was a fact changed. For centuries, the experts of the day taught people that it was a fact that the Earth was at the center of the universe and that the sun and all the planets orbited around it. But in the 1500s, Nicholas Copernicus figured out that that wasn't true. It wasn't a fact. Years later, Galileo agreed, and eventually, like 200 years later or something, when telescopes were more advanced, we learned that the Earth and the planets actually revolve around the sun. It was the opposite. So then that new information became the new fact. What about medicine? Let's think of how medicine's changed over the centuries. Way back in ancient times, doctors believed that the body maintained health through the balance of blood, phlegm, black and yellow bile. The experts of the day taught this to their students as a fact, and that stayed in the minds of people for centuries. Eventually, though, we learned that no, there was more to health than those 4 elements. Facts are ideas. And those ideas get sold to somebody else. And some people are really good at selling their ideas to others. And if enough people adopt that idea as a truth, then it's passed on as a fact. It doesn't mean that it is one. It just means that a group of people agreed for whatever their reasons are. Now, take a moment to ask yourself, how many people do you think take time to go through the files in the filing cabinets of their mind, review and reassess every single one from an adult perspective, or at the very least, a different perspective? Be honest with yourself. Have you? So the next time that you listen to an expert, take a moment to reflect on whether whatever it is that they're saying makes sense for you. Obviously, listen to what they say, but then take time to consider what makes sense to you. And then acknowledge what doesn't make sense. Keep what you like and throw away the rest. Thanks for stopping by. Remember to hit that like button, and if you like what you're hearing and if it makes sense to you, be sure to follow us. Leave a comment below and tell us what you think. See you next time.